The whispers started before the lights even dimmed, a ripple through velvet seats and designer coats. The kind of electric murmur that only happens when a red carpet fairy tale is about to collide with real-world reality. And at the center of it all stood Meghan Markle, smiling for cameras while critics, bloggers, and festival insiders were already sharpening their knives over what they were calling the most awkward Sundance moment in years.
Shocking truth about Meghan Markle's so-called cookie queens is being revealed after a disastrous appearance at the Sundance Film Festival.
I thought she behaved so badly, and Harry too.
She blames the media for her, in his words, murdered her, which is complete nonsense.
Tom Bower, the legendary royal author, is sharpening his quill. Every single thing he has written about Meghan.
First person to say how limited Prince Harry is, unfortunately, and how his wife trades off her husband's fame and fortune, or not so great fortune now. I mean, this is the problem, but we're still interested because, after all, he's a great character in our modern day.
Meghan was angling for an invite to this funeral. She saw it as an opportunity. She's not wrong there. These big celebrity funerals, they're not like ours. They really are networking moments. I went to Joan Rivers' funeral.
And didn't want to, firstly, be seen with Harry, and secondly, didn't want to go somewhere where she'd appear cheap and give it gratis. And this year, she is desperate to be seen.
Yeah.
And that's why she turned up. So I think she has a major problem.
I mean, this was a calculated attempt against the families. I mean, the one thing that Samantha Markle always predicted was
King Charles and Prince William are now at war over Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's Donald Trump rebuke.
So Harry and Meghan want us to discuss the fact that they executive produced Cookie Queens and popped up at the Sundance Film Festival. And I'm happy to oblige, but not in the way they probably hoped.
Apparently Meghan Markle didn't even watch the documentary she produced.
Meghan, because that was the sort of person she was looking for, famous and rich.
I don't think Harry feels any remorse. And I think that is the key thing in all this reconciliation. He still thinks that he's owed an apology from Charles and from William for the way they've treated not only him but also Meghan. And he doesn't want to realize that it's his behavior, his writing for money, being so unbelievably disloyal.
So she invited herself to that. The only place that she has a standing open invite to where she will not appear, a tragedy.
Because here's where the story turns from glossy premier fantasy into messy, rumor-fueled drama. Veteran royal biographer Tom Bower started telling anyone who would listen that multiple people at the Sundance Film Festival screening claimed Meghan seemed strangely disconnected from the very documentary she was there to celebrate. And while no one can crawl inside her head to know what she watched or didn't watch, the perception among some attendees quickly snowballed into a narrative that she was promoting a project whose deeper themes she may not have fully anticipated.
Perhaps. So he's they toddle over to Sundance, where allegedly they have produced, their names are on the stock as a producer, a documentary about Girl Scouts trying to sell their cookies. It's called Cookie Queen. Edge of your seat viewing, okay? Now, there are reports the Daily Mail has that the Sundance screening had rows and rows and rows of empty seats, while the Sussex squad, those nebulous 10 fans out there, claim that it was a standing room only, sold out screening, because who doesn't want to watch a bunch of 8-year-olds trying to sling some cookies over at the local Stop and Shop?
She arrived polished, poised, camera ready, thanking supporters and praising what she framed as a heartfelt look at American girlhood. But in the shadows of that small theater, people were counting seats, and the number they kept repeating in hushed, disbelieving tones was triple digits worth of empty chairs, a detail that may or may not tell the whole story of ticketing logistics, yet became instant gossip currency the second it hit group chats and social feeds.
And it's no surprise, really, that it seems Meghan has no idea about the truth of the film that she is promoting, given that she decided to buy it without actually having anything to do with its production. But of course, Meghan's behavior towards the children themselves is also being exposed. Look at this from the red carpet, where she really did prove that she don't like these children. She's not at all interested about being around these children. And actually what she likes is the very quick pose for a selfie.
Festival regulars insisted screenings here are usually jam-packed. So the sight of visible gaps fed a storyline that the project didn't generate the frenzy some expected. And even though festivals are chaotic ecosystems where timing, weather, and competing premieres all play a role, the optics alone were enough for critics to label it a stumble rather than a triumph, especially given the high-profile presence of Meghan and Prince Harry.
Film folks who are there working, and they went to this screening, and they said when it started, and it's a small theatre, this is not Radio City, this is a small theatre, when it started there was about 150 empty seats. As the movie progressed, I think ushers or people were pushed in to try and make it look a little less embarrassing, but there still was about 60, 70 seats. What's really unusual is that anyone that's been to Sundance knows that these theatres are packed for the 2 weeks, for the time that the festival is on. It's really hard to get a ticket. So
there are often lines outside of screening rooms, well before.
Then came the distribution chatter, the kind that thrives on half-heard industry whispers, commentators speculating that if a major streamer had been fully behind the film, it might have launched differently, while others pushed back, noting that festivals are often strategic stops even for projects with big-name ties. But nuance rarely survives in the gossip cycle, and why wasn't it already snapped up? Became the question, echoing louder than any applause.
Harry and Meghan Markle, the Duke and Duchess of Scamelot, they were at the Sundance Film Festival. I mean, what a fall from grace, okay? They're at a film festival doing the red carpet like wannabe influencers and celebrities when they were real royalty, right? People would have been flying to see them. Celebrities who were at Sundance would have been jumping through rings of fire and hoops just to hang out with her if she were still a duchess, right? If she were still a duchess and living over in, London eating crumpets and scones, people would be jumping through hoops to hang out with her. And now she's having to do these desperate PR stunts. So she's invented a new career.
What truly fueled debate, though, wasn't just attendance or deal-making gossip, it was the content itself, because viewers who described the documentary online said it paints a complicated picture of youth fundraising culture, one that some interpreted as heartwarming and others saw as uncomfortably highlighting pressure, privilege gaps, and parental involvement that blurs the line between guidance and overdrive. Themes that hit differently depending on your own childhood memories. That's where the controversy tightened its grip. Meghan praised the film as meaningful and empowering, while a subset of viewers walk away unsettled, arguing it exposes systems that can reward resources and connections as much as effort. And the gap between her upbeat public remarks and these more critical interpretations sparked online claims that she and Harry either saw a different cut, focused on different aspects, or simply framed the story through a more optimistic lens than some audience members did. From there, the conversation spiraled into side debates about her past, with internet sleuths rehashing whether she had been a Girl Scout or a Brownie, what those roles involve, and whether childhood affiliation even mattered decades later. Yet, in the feverish logic of celebrity culture, tiny biographical details get treated like courtroom evidence, used to question authenticity, relatability, and intent. Meanwhile, organizations connected to youth programs found themselves dragged into a spotlight they hadn't necessarily asked for, with disclaimers in the film and secondhand reports about distancing statements becoming part of the chatter, even though official positions can be more measured than the dramatic retellings bouncing around social media threads. Layered on top of all this was the never-ending royal comparison game. Commentators suggesting Meghan's involvement with a story about girls' organizations would inevitably be measured against the long-standing patronage work of Catherine, Princess of Wales, turning what might have been a niche documentary premiere into another chapter of the transatlantic image rivalry narrative that tabloids adore. Industry insiders also whispered about the crowded producer credits, noting that documentaries often have long lists of executive producers added at various stages, yet critics framed that as proof the Sussexes attached themselves late, while supporters countered that attaching high-profile names can be a standard way to amplify impact, depending on how you read it. And through all of it, Meghan's speech became its own mini-controversy, dissected line by line by commentators who called it polished but vague, inspirational but light on specifics. The kind of public-facing language celebrities use all the time, yet which, in this hypercritical climate, was interpreted by skeptics as evasion rather than diplomacy. Add in parallel headlines about streaming deals, past projects, and shifting Hollywood alliances, and suddenly this single Sundance appearance morphed into a symbolic verdict on the Sussex brand itself, with pundits arguing over whether they still bring prestige, bring controversy, or inevitably bring both at once, depending on who's telling the story. What's undeniable is that the premiere didn't land quietly. It detonated into think pieces, reaction videos, and endless comment sections, proving once again that anything touching Meghan and Harry exists in a media pressure cooker where perception can matter as much as reality, and every smile on a red carpet can be reframed as confidence by fans or tone deafness by critics. And just when the chatter about empty seats and mixed interpretations should have faded into the background noise of festival season, the story found a second life online where clips of Meghan's remarks were slowed down, zoomed in, and analyzed like game footage. Every pause treated as suspicious. Every broad statement reframed as proof that she was glossing over the tougher themes some viewers believed the documentary raised. Commentators who said they attended the screening began posting long threads describing moments that made them uncomfortable, arguing the film shows children navigating adult-level financial pressure, while others push back just as loudly, insisting the documentary simply reflects the complicated reality of modern fundraising and parental involvement, not some grand exposé, and that people were projecting their own biases onto a story that can be read multiple ways. Still, the perception gap refused to die, especially once trade outlets like The Hollywood Reporter and Variety were pulled into social media debates, with headlines and review snippets screenshotted, cropped, and circulated as supposed proof that industry insiders were either quietly unimpressed or politely lukewarm, depending on which side of the argument was doing the posting. Then the distribution speculation came roaring back, because in Hollywood gossip logic, a premiere without an immediate splashy deal becomes a Rorschach test. Critics say it signals rejection, optimists say negotiations take time, and somewhere in between sits the reality that documentary sales are often slow, strategic, and shaped by market timing, not just star power, even when those stars include a former working royal. The name that kept getting dragged into those conversations was Netflix, with online commentators insisting the streamer's past relationship with the Sussexes meant this film should have landed there automatically, as if content deals operate on loyalty instead of budgets, algorithms, and internal strategy shifts that outsiders rarely see. Yet the narrative of a dramatic past proved too juicy for gossip channels to resist. At the same time, youth organization discussions took on a life of their own, with people invoking Girl Scouts of the USA in ways that ranged from protective to accusatory, even though official statements, where they existed, were far more measured than the outrage-filled summaries ricocheting across TikTok and X, illustrating how quickly institutions can become side characters in celebrity-driven storms. Inside royal watching circles, the premiere was reframed yet again, not as a film industry moment, but as another episode in the ongoing saga of image management, relevance, and reinvention after stepping back from formal duties, with pundits arguing over whether every public appearance now carries extra weight because it's seen as a strategic move rather than just a professional engagement. Some said Meghan's enthusiastic praise for the documentary was simply what public figures do at premieres, highlighting the positive, focusing on inspiration, avoiding controversy, while detractors claimed the disconnect between her framing and more critical readings of the film proved she either misunderstood it or chose not to emphasize its thornier aspects. A debate that says as much about audience expectations as it does about her. Harry's presence added another layer because for critics already primed to see contradiction, footage of him smiling at a festival event was contrasted with past comments he's made about media intrusion and public scrutiny, as if attending a film screening and advocating for privacy must be mutually exclusive. A simplification that fuels outrage far more effectively than nuance ever could. Meanwhile, longtime observers of celebrity culture noted a familiar pattern. Attach two polarizing figures to any project and the project itself becomes secondary to the metastory about them, their brand, their motives, their trajectory, until the original subject matter is almost swallowed whole by discourse about optics and symbolism. Behind the scenes, filmmakers and producers connected to the documentary were largely left out of the latest online conversations, even though they are the ones who spent years shaping the narrative on screen. A reminder that once a project intersects with global name personalities, creative labor can be overshadowed by personality politics in a heartbeat. The irony, some pointed out, is that a film about young people navigating systems larger than themselves ended up mirrored by a media cycle where individuals also get swept into forces they can't fully control. Narratives snowballing far beyond what anyone on that red carpet likely anticipated when the flashbulbs started popping. And through it all, the loudest claims remain just that, claims built from secondhand accounts, partial reviews, and emotionally charged interpretations, yet repeated with such confidence that they harden into facts in certain corners of the internet, demonstrating how modern gossip ecosystems don't just report stories, they actively construct them in real time. By the end of the week, the Sundance screening had transformed from a single festival slot into a symbol people used to argue about everything from Hollywood credibility to royal relevance to parenting culture. A reminder that when Meghan Markle is involved, no event stays small, no narrative stays simple, and every public moment risks being pulled into a much bigger cultural tug-of-war than any documentary could contain on its own.